We're gonna head out tomorrow morning. Yeah. 68 there right now. Oh, man. We're ready for that.
Karen knows she's full screen. Okay. Hi, Karen, you're full screen.
Try to
Oh,
shift
sorry.
these really
I
high
don't
things.
mean to be.
They can start really early. So they'll start like 4 a.m. and then they'll get off at 11:30, 12. Yeah, well, except for when we come in here. So we gotta reshift these days so that we can, it is.
Have some in our neighborhood?
Yeah, it's the norms. Just too tricky. A lot of water, a lot of breaks. That's all you can do.
Ding, ding. Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock somewhere, according to Jimmy. I would welcome everybody to the Grounds Committee meeting, especially to those that have joined us as guests, as well as those who are attending on Zoom. This is a one-off meeting for those of you who are questioning why we're doing it today, to accommodate a request from one of our new committee members who really didn't get a chance to review the proposed tree work that would be done in her zone, Paula Connors in Zone 4. So without further ado, we are going to buzz through this, and we'll start with a roll call, please.
Diane Duraway is not here. Mary Gray. Paula Connors here. Don Elwinger.
Here.
Jean Dasher here. Looking at June.
I made it. Okay, we've got enough to do business. I'd like to have an approval for the July 11 meeting minutes. Assuming that we've all had a chance to read. Paula has made the motion. Could I get a second, please? Mary, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now it's up to me, Chair report. I'm going to start with a request for liaison to offer comments, and then I do have some follow-on comments as well before we get to the meat of the meeting. We're going to start with the liaison comments. If you have any.
I don't have any.
All right, we were moving even faster. Do we have? Okay. I'd like to acknowledge that we've had several owner requests that are in process and have been routed out to Don and Jean, to Paula, and to me. And I would ask that we get the photos.
You said they're from us or to you?
to you from me last meeting. And I'm just saying, if we can make arrangements for copies, but I did. I'm just a reminder that in order to have them actionable, I'd like to have your photo and written response or suggestion, comment back to the chair or Teresa, secretary, by the end of the first week in August, so we can pack it into next month's or August's committee meeting.
These homeowner requests that you brought up at the last meeting?
These were homeowner requests that came to from the staff to liaison to me, which I physically handed to you. And no problem. This is not homework. So we'll make sure that you have those before you leave this afternoon.
I'd like to make a clarification. According to the documents that say, that explain the process for homeowner landscape requests, zone steward should send them to you, and then you can send them to me. So just send them to Jim.
Okay.
Hit me with your best shot. Okay. They were paper, I physically handed them.
If I have it,
Yeah.
okay.
No problem. The one other comment that I would make is that proactively, I want to thank everybody who's jumping in and taking a look at what should or could be done in their zone and have suggestions with photos and comments. I really mean that. But we must remember that we're wearing two hats in this committee. We're homeowners first, so that that is first and foremost. Secondly, we're committee members. But when we're committee members and we note something on a walk or other thing, I'd like to remind you that according to what the board has asked, is that your suggestions or requests come through the chair to liaison and then to the office. Now that sounds cumbersome, I get it. But the issue is we've got a small staff. And at this point, it doesn't look like it's going to get any larger. And given all the other priorities that they're asked to address, it can get to the point where you're kind of drinking from a fire hose. So I just, in the little red binder, there is something called an organization chart and communication path. This was put together by Cheryl Nelson a year or two ago. And yes, it's in your red binder. I really wouldn't know. I only know about. We can chat with every other committee chair, but I'm only responsible for this one. Can't really speak to it, Mary. Okay, continuing. I just ask you, rather than shooting a shot for legitimate reasons, there's an issue or a condition, that you come to the chair first. And that might be part of a larger need that we're kind of gathering information on, like dry spots or other things. And then we'll send it up the flagpole to staff rather than them hitting from different directions with nothing other than the best of intentions. But they're trying to figure out, okay, how far along has this been? Who's seen it? And I just ask. Now, secondly, that is only for committee work. As owners, we all enjoy the rights to go directly to staff and office if there's an issue that affects us personally.
Sorry,
Jean.
regarding irrigation, so if I see something that's immediate or, a broken
Microphone.
sprinkler. So regarding irrigation, if I see something that needs attention, then I go to the office as a homeowner. Do I push on it or not? Okay, so regarding irrigation, so if I see something that needs immediate care, like a flooding sprinkler, then I go to the office as a homeowner.
Let's clarify this. If that is in front of your house and you're in danger of being flooded out, you personally go directly to the office and say, help. If in fact, in your walk in the zone, you see something, you document it, you're proactive, both of you guys, and you offer comment and shoot it to us and we'll send it up the flag. That's just, I didn't make the policy. I'm just trying to make sure that there's consistency in a way that makes it simpler.
So it's a second. Okay, so if I email it to you and you see that day that it's something very important, you'll take care of it that day. It's not going to wait another month.
I can't speak that it'll be that day. I might be in Fresno. But the point is, yes, it'll be promptly attended
Okay.
to.
Okay.
Mary, you have a question?
Just a quick question. So I'm hoping / assuming that there's a database of all homeowner requests and the actions and everything so that it's easy to track and find and it's just not a stack of paper.
Yes, there is. Just want to just bring that in. From the liaison and management point of view, everything is tracked.
So I have access to it, Jim?
I can't hear. I'm sorry.
Do I have access to it?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay.
Okay. So it's just a request, okay?
I don't think you need security clearance for that, to look at that. So that's fine. Yeah.
And with that request, I cede to Paul and the tree report.
Okay, zone 4. So our first item in zone 4 that I noticed was this really small Japanese maple that's really in an inconvenient spot for the tree. As you can see, there's really insufficient growing space for this tree. And, you know, really, it's not an adequate space for the way the tree's developed. And it's put limitations as to how we can keep this from touching the building for further pruning. So I'm recommending the removal of that tree.
Can you tell us when you go through these if they're A or B?
This is a removal. It's in its own category. Starting with the A-level trees, this is a codominant top in a redwood. A little hard to see from the picture, but there is a codominant top in this tree. So we want to do a reduction on that codominant. This is a common failure point on redwood trees. So we want to further the work that we have been working on in the community by eliminating these codominant tops and helping to reduce potential failure. So this is an A level. Also in our A level, this is a deodar cedar, and this tree is really abundant with cones this year. The cones, when they come in, can add additional weight to the branch and can cause limb failure. So I do not really want to prune the tree itself. The limbs and the branching structure are okay, but the amount of cones that have come in this year on the tree are really heavy. So we want to thin out some of the cones to help take the weight off the branches and reduce the potential for a limb failure. And just due to this tree's location, it falls in the A level.
Quick question on cones, since I don't know anything about them. They don't just fall off eventually by themselves?
No, they don't. They won't,
Just-
not until they've finished their cycle. When they come in, they're green and they're really heavy. And then it's only until they go through their cycle and dry out and then release the seeds do they lighten up or potentially dislodge. But as they're green, they typically don't come off the tree when they're green unless a squirrel knocks them off.
So how long is their cycle?
The cycle is anywhere from 30 to 60 days, depending on that, how much the tree is going to push out the cones. And then this is going to be in our B group. This is a pistache, and again, we got a really heavy canopy. We want to reduce the weight throughout the canopy on that tree. And this would fall into our A group, liquid amber. Again, we wanted to do some reduction work on some of the branching there that's hanging out over the street, reduce weight throughout the canopy on this tree. That tree, 1417 Commons.
You're talking sweet gum?
Yes. Liquid amber is the common name for. So again, this falls in our A group. It's a tulip tree. And again, we're looking to do weight reduction throughout the canopy, reduce the height and weight on the branches.
Excuse me, I think this is a B.
The figure 6.
Is a B.
Oh, you're correct.
Thank you.
That's a liquid amber?
This is a tulip tree. Yeah, figure 6. This one's in our A group. This is a tulip tree, figure 7, 200 Dunbarton. Again, we're looking at weight reduction through this tree canopy.
Are these in danger of limb drop?
Yeah, anytime we're looking to do weight reduction throughout the canopy, we're looking to reduce the potential for limb failure.
Can I ask a quick question on limb failure? I mean, we have hundreds of trees. At any point in time, a limb can fail, right?
Correct.
So I'm get a little lost on some of the pruning. If at any point in time a limb can fail, what's the criteria for this one actually needs it?
It's depending on what the tree is showing based on growth and size of canopy and spread of canopy and the overall fullness of the tree's canopy. So that's what I look for when we're out walking the grounds, what trees are really heavy and would use the weight reduction pruning to help reduce the potential for a limb to fail. So these 3 trees are also in our level A group. Again, heavy canopies, we're looking to reduce the weight throughout the canopy of these trees. And this one is going to be, I believe, in our B group. So again, tulip tree, pruning for weight throughout that tree's canopy. So we have this ash tree. This is in our A group. This tree we've been monitoring for a number of years. It is in the process of retrenchment. It's when an older tree is no longer, the root system is no longer able to support the size of the tree's canopy. So as trees age, the way that they age is their root system will start to shrink, and therefore the canopy will also start to shrink. And that's why we see year after year, we have this a lot of dead wood and the canopy is kind of shrinking back. And this process will reach a point to where the tree will then balance what root system it's able to support the canopy above. So I don't feel the tree meets a criteria for removal, but we do need to match the process of that root system shrinking and prune throughout the canopy to reduce any of those hazards and try to help the tree meet the demand, the growing demand between the root system and canopy. So we'll be doing some reduction pruning out the large deadwood and reducing again spread of some of the green branches. And this one's going to be in our B group. Again, we're going to be doing some, we want to do some structural work on this tree and reshape the crown and take some weight out of it. Correct, yeah. And we have this liquid amber. This is in our A group. Again, you can see how this canopy's really kind of pulling away from itself. So we want to get in and shape that canopy, reduce some of the elongation on the branches and pull that canopy in a little bit closer and tighter, and reduce some weight out of the tree. 10. And this is another liquid amber. Again, we're doing weight reduction, height reduction on the tree.
Hey, Paul, one quick question on the weight reduction. So when the guides are out there, like, how do they make a decision which branch to take if it's weight reduction? Do you mark them, or like, what's the decision process for weight reduction?
So the climbers get up in the tree, and then they'll determine what's the best lead to cut the branch back to, based on how we train them to prune.
Okay.
This would be in our B level, I believe, figure 14. Yeah. Figure 14 falls in our B category. Again, weight reduction pruning throughout this canopy. And going back to our A group, again, we're going to be doing some branch reduction. The portion of the canopy that's over the roof line, we're going to be pulling some of these really long branches back, reducing weight from the canopy of these trees. And that's just another picture from the other side. What figure is this one? Figure 17. Okay, this would be our last tulip tree in level A. Again, weight reduction over the rooftops here on this tulip tree. And that's our tree report for zone 4.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. So were these liquid ambers pruned 2 years ago? Are these the same ones? Do they tend to need it every 2 years?
We typically go through the liquid ambers about 2 to 3 years because they are vigorous growers. They're going to grow back quickly. So those are trees, because of their potential for limb failure, that we are wanting to prune in a 2 to 3 year cycle. Just depends on what growth they're showing, when we do our inspections. But we take a look at the liquid ambers every year when we're walking the zones, just because, again, they're trees that have a tendency to push on a lot of growth rapidly. So it just depends on, year to year, how much that tree is putting on.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to thank everybody for agreeing to have the special meeting. And I want to say it was a very educational process, going and walking and looking at each of the trees. And then I had a very fruitful and productive, in the theme of things, conversation with Paul. And he answered a lot of my questions, some of which people have raised here today. And so I learned a lot. And I actually went out and looked at them all again yesterday just to make sure I had them all straight in my head. So what I would like to do right now is make a motion, if that's appropriate. And I agree with Paul on the tree removal. That tree is in a horrible location and it's just not thriving, unfortunately. We discussed a number of options that could happen with it, but it just was planted in the wrong place, unfortunately. So I'd make a motion that we approve that item. We had a long discussion about the difference between priority A and priority B. And as Paul, he has repeated a lot of what he said, but he also said something that was interesting, is that that part of why he is, and I'm paraphrasing what you said, putting some of the trees in B is that although a tree could fail, any tree could fail at any time, and we don't know when that's going to happen, but it seemed like these trees would not cause as much property damage as the ones in A. And the ones in A, he felt were the ones that were more critical at this time. So my motion would be to approve all the trees, the 15 trees in the priority A, but to defer the priority B trees, which are 5 trees. And at this time.
I
Question.
second you.
Before we leave, your reason for only approving the recommended A instead of A and B is what?
That basically that they did not seem to be in as high a critical need as the priority A's. I mean, if you look at them, you can see that there's a difference. It's a slight difference in some cases, but some of them were lower, not as high, didn't have as high elevation, were perhaps not as close to some property, to assets, to structures. And so my recommendation would be to, basically watch them, and hopefully they would be on the list for the priority A for next year. Definitely would suggest that they be on the list to be looked at by Paul.
I'd like to second her motion.
We have questions.
So it seems that the two main things that you're looking for are, or the reason for doing this is for tree health and for diminishing the risk of property damage. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, so if you delay the level Bs, then the amount of growth, let's say we just cut in half the amount or the number of times that we give them attention. Will that affect the tree health? Because if you do that, then you're going to have to take off twice as much growth each time.
It's not necessarily where we would be pruning twice as much growth if we deferred a year of maintenance. The level that the trees are at this point, the ones that we looked at, because we've pruned almost all these trees at some point over the past. I mean, I've been working through Nepenthe since 2016. We've touched, I would say, nearly every tree through the community, outside of maybe some of the ones along Howe Avenue, which are the city's trees. But when we're looking at the trees zone year to year, we're definitely identifying trees that are showing signs of needing, something immediately done. The priority levels are based on, whether or not, if the tree fails, and this is based off of the ISA's risk assessment and loosely based on a risk assessment level. So I would look at a tree, I would look at the health of the tree, condition of the tree parts, what are potential targets underneath the tree, and then the potential consequences of that tree part or whole failing onto that target and what the potential damage would be. That's how I would weigh when I'm looking at the trees in terms of level of need for the pruning. But everything that we identify on the reports is at a point where it's ready to be pruned. Now, deferring that tree to a following year, it's going to put, the tree is going to continue to grow. Now, it's just a matter of if the tree will hold until we're able to reach it the following year, or if one of the, we experience a limb failure on that branch. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but we look at trees based on what they're showing. And if we're identifying them for work, they're showing that they need that work to be done.
Thank you.
Having personally experienced at our home limb failure, I would not wish that on anybody. And if we are in a situation where we have a professional assessment that there are an additional 5 trees out of the entire canopy that is in zone 4, I would be inclined and am inclined to request that the priority be included in the pruning.
Well, yeah, but the motion is, we already have a motion on the table.
This is discussion.
Okay.
Now, are there any other comments? Paula?
No, I understand your comments completely. And that's why I wanted to talk to Paul and get a clearer idea about it. I mean, there's just no guarantees in this world. I mean, they could fall and trees that are not on this list could fall or fail. So, you know, I realize that this is a basket of what he considers good candidates for pruning at this time, but he is a professional and he has classified them into 2 separate baskets, sub-baskets. And I'm just suggesting, I am requesting a motion, approval of the motion, because I think that, you know, perhaps we could defer this. I mean, it's like 30% or 25% of the cost, number one. And number two, like I said, physically, some of these trees were not as big or as high or as bushy as the ones on the A list.
Remember, we are looking at scope of work. That is the criteria. You are aware of the cost, but that is not supposed to enter into the decision process. If there are no other comments, then we call for the question. All those in favor of priority A pruning only, please raise your hand.
And the tree removal.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We have 3. All those opposed? We have a motion carried. And I believe that will be what will be forwarded to the board, that the committee has recommended approval for trimming the A priority and tree removal.
Just one comment. Thank you, Paul. I understand much better your priority and what you look at. I really appreciate your time.
Can I raise a point, a question, and maybe this isn't the appropriate time, and if it's not, that's okay. But if this tree is going to be removed in figure 1, is there a point where the homeowner gets notified or at least told the date of when they might come, or is the tree tagged? Because I don't think it's, the circumference is big enough for it to go to the city. So I guess my question is, how do we communicate with the homeowner that this could be happening or is even being considered? I mean, do they get it as a fait accompli at the end after the board approves it, or are they allowed to know about this at this time?
For the tree removals, we will coordinate with the office and let them know the date that the crew's going to come out to remove that tree.
But
We try to work on specifically the removals, because most of those are going to be a time. I mean, with that particular tree, it's not going to be a process, but most of the tree removals that we identify are more of a process, and the crew's going to be in that location for quite a while. So we want to make sure that people are aware of the noise at that site. So we do try to coordinate dates for tree removal.
so the first time the owner would hear about it is the date that they're going to come out?
No,
I mean, I'm asking anybody who can answer.
It's the office will notify the homeowner. That's usually, or else there might be a sign there. So that will be handled. That's how it's done. That's how the process is. The office will once Paul notifies the office, he'll give a date, approximate date, and the homeowner is then notified.
I guess the question is, how far ahead?
We also once we get an approval, we'll post a sign out there, the Grove will post a sign and it typically says 30 to 60 days, the tree will be removed. So we try to give, because again, once we get this approval, this work's not gonna take place, until probably beginning of September. So once we do have the approval, we'll be able to put those signs out, so that people will be able to see the trees that are going to get removed. For the ones that require city permitting, the city will actually post the notice for tree removal as well.
Thank you, Paul. Good question, Mary. At this point, if we have any comments from homeowners, you're certainly welcome. Yes. Carol.
So Jim, I heard you mention that if someone sees something that is flooding, that they're to send it to you unless it's their own home. And I guess I would say I disagree with that completely. If I see something that's flooding, I don't care
No, no.
where it is on the property.
I'm sorry if
But-
I don't mean to interrupt, but I was clear in saying that if I was affected personally, I would go directly to the staff. I do not go through the chair and through the cumbersome communication change. If in fact I'm wearing the hat of a committee member, I would, according to the board's request for communication, I would ask to be notified as the chair. But for a personal situation or a crisis, we're all owners. We can go directly and are encouraged to go directly to the office.
What I was in the middle of saying was, whether I'm a member of this committee or just a homeowner, and I'm walking around, I don't care if it's a half a mile from my home. If I see flooding, I'm going directly to the office to report it. I'm not going to, if I'm happen to be a member of this committee, send it through channels so that the flooding continues on. So there's a waterfall out in the street and we're wasting water. Thank you.
Carol, you're free to do anything you want as you walk and wander the community. That's fine. But as a member of the committee, I'm making the request that we try to respect what has been requested by the board, given the limited resources we have at the office. That's the only comment I'm making. And I certainly understand Carol's sense of obligation to the community, and I have absolutely no disagreement with that. No comment. Are there any other questions or comments from homeowners? Well, then we've let a land speed record. We're out of here in 35 minutes. Meeting is adjourned.